Привет! So, welcome to our Sunday live stream. It's going to be a short one because I have another live stream on the lifestyle channel coming up. So we're going to deal with geopolitics here very quickly, round up what has happened in the last few days. I've made several videos this week about the drone incursion, provocation, attack. Obviously, there's a bit of semantics involved in diplomatic speak, but go look at the other videos on the channel on that if you want to. But the very too long didn't read version is that there was around 20 drones that entered Polish airspace earlier this week. It's Sunday, so I'm going to say, I can't remember which day it was this time. I think it was the 12th of September. Today's 14th, so I think it was a little bit earlier. Maybe it's the 10th of September. And basically 4 of them were shot down when NATO allies, European allies of Poland, so involved aircraft from Italy and the Netherlands. Maybe there's some other countries. It importantly did not involve any intervention by the US. And Russia basically denies that they deliberately sent the drones there. NATO was only able to shoot down at great expense, it must be said, about 25% of the drones. And afterwards, Poland activated Article 4 of NATO, which is basically an accelerated way to get consultations at the defense minister level of the members of NATO to know how they're going to respond. It's not like Article 5, which would have said it was an attack. Later on, Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland, did change his language and actually wrote the word attack in English. Donald Trump said that it might have been a mistake. So it's just trying to buy time, I guess, to not impose more sanctions against Russia, which has been ongoing. I will believe that further sanctions are going to be imposed by the US and the former secondary sanctions probably when I see them, because at this rate of progress, it doesn't look like they're actually going to happen or that Donald Trump is actually really that serious about it. And anyways, him putting or sowing some doubts that Russia deliberately sent these drones obviously gives him a little bit of an out politically to actually taking action. Then if he said yes, it was deliberate. Donald Tusk replied, along with the Polish foreign minister, that it was definitely not a mistake. They actually changed the language, as I said, to attack. So we will see what will happen going forward. Russia has started the Zapad 2025 war exercises with Belarus, which basically simulates an attack on NATO. And in the past, Russia has used similar maneuvers to position a lot of their troops, and their materiel, like for the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. They actually had conducted some exercise with Belarus just before, and they left a lot of their materiel there in place that they used in the invasion. And yesterday there was further drone incursions into NATO territory, not too far from here in Romania. The Romanian Air Force did not shoot the drone down, it just accompanied it, and then it went back into Ukraine airspace. This has been the policy by NATO countries, actually not to shoot down the drones. This was the first time they did it back a few days ago in Poland when they had 20, because there's just so many, and they had come also via Belarus. So they had seen it as a bigger threat. It looks like most of the drones, if not all of them, were actually decoy drones, so they didn't have a warhead which would have exploded. Again, that's another indication it was probably a deliberate strategy by Russia, because then they wouldn't be risking actually blowing up a building on purpose or by accident, which could have escalated things up to Article 5 potentially, in theory, although we don't know yet. And we also saw a further drone incursion into Polish airspace yesterday. So with the Zapad 2025 maneuvers going on and this incursion, then looks like Russia will continue to escalate, because basically allows them to develop intel on how NATO forces respond, and they still have plausible deniability. If escalation to Article 4 of NATO is not something that Russia particularly worries about. They're able to judge, basically another indicator that if they were to launch a higher level escalation, probably the US is not going to respond in any meaningful way, since they didn't respond to this level of threshold. So they could probably go further a little bit next time and see if the US does anything. They know that the Europeans are likely to respond. So this gives them a lot of intel for how far they can go and how far they can push things before they maybe get a response that would dissuade them. So this is the big news. And with Zapad 2025 taking place, there is a small risk that Russia would launch a serious provocation or maybe even an incursion into some NATO territory, maybe in Lithuania or in Poland. I do not expect to see that to happen because Russia is stuck here in Ukraine. They would almost certainly need to redeploy their troops. That would mean pausing the fighting here in order to attack a NATO member like the Baltics. So in general, it doesn't bode well for collective security. Let me just move myself here. If the US is not resolute in having a very effective deterrence policy. And that's not just something under the current Trump administration, it was also an issue under previous US administrations. We had incursions and drone incursions in the past, but they have been dismissed as errant or accidental, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But there was also in the Biden administration, they did not do very much in response to them. So you see, the problem will only grow if there is not an effective deterrent in place. Also interesting that I didn't have a chance to comment on in my previous videos on this topic is the reaction in Poland, because a significant minority of Poles believe that Ukraine sent the drones in, which, there's no evidence of that. And they also came via Belarus, which would be odd for Ukraine. Even if they could get similar drones and fly them around and just pretend that they were Russian when in fact they have been Ukrainian, then flying them over Belarusian airspace wouldn't make much sense. They would probably have to fly them first into Russia and then come back. It just seems a little bit nonsensical to believe that based on the evidence. And interesting that the Polish Prime Minister also responded about the issue of disinformation. On broader scale, we've seen with the assassination of Charlie Kirk in the US, also huge amounts of disinformation and people believing in a lot of unconfirmed, unbiased, and unbiased reporting, or just messages or people spreading rumors. So this is a bigger issue, and that is part of the problem with freedom of speech. What are people going to believe if they have just an overwhelming amount of information, and information that's sensationalist but not verified, being put in the public sphere and circulated? So drop your comments down below. If you would like anything addressed this week, I will have a video on Girkin, the former Russian GRU commander who led the invasion and occupation of Crimea back in 2014. He's sitting in a Russian prison. He said some very interesting things about the state of Russia in this war, which are not good for Russia, so I think that's worth commenting on. And we will see what further provocations occur against NATO territory. There may be some other things that come up. And on the battlefield here in Ukraine, Russia is making very little progress. It seems like their summer campaign may have already culminated, and there have been a lot of speculation they were still putting together forces to make one final push. As you can see, we have beautiful weather, so and that will probably stay for at least a few weeks, so they could still do their summer offensive until at least October, before we get rain. Then it becomes harder, and obviously the leaves start to fall off the trees, and then that leaves soldiers a lot more exposed, makes it harder to advance. They did use some tunnels basically to make some marginal gains around Kupiansk, which is in Kharkiv Oblast. However, they lost a large part of their salient that around Pokrovsk that had been in the news a lot when Putin went to Alaska. So that's already, I guess, about 3 weeks ago. So here, not much has changed. We have been about a week here in Odessa since there's been a major Russian rocket attack targeting this city in particular. There was the one where the drones also went into Poland, which I guess happened Tuesday. That was the day, because I did a live stream on Wednesday, I'm pretty sure, here on the, not just on this channel, but on the lifestyle channel. And yeah, that's about all I have to say at this juncture. So we're gonna get ready and do the almost weekly live stream on the lifestyle channel. And if you are interested in coming here to Ukraine, I have a guide down below. You can go and check it out. It will be a very unique companion for you if you are coming here. And on that note, I will bid you a very pleasant evening from a beautiful Odessa mama in this late summer sunshine, early autumn. And Slava Ukraini. I have it here on my t-shirt. Herom Slava do Peremoghi.